There's a valley in Switzerland with 72 waterfalls crashing down sheer cliff walls, and most people driving through barely slow down to look. That's the strange thing about the Alps. The scenery is so relentlessly dramatic that after the third or fourth impossible view, your brain almost stops registering it as real. Mountains here don't just rise, they explode upward out of green valleys like something from another planet. Glaciers glowing blue in the afternoon light, and somewhere in the middle of all that scale, cowbells are still ringing across pastures the exact same way they have for 600 years. A land where the mountains don't seem real. Tonight, we're not doing the postcard version of Switzerland, the one where you glance at a photo of the Matterhorn and scroll past. We're climbing into a train station carved directly into a glacier, standing on a glass platform bolted to the side of a cliff, sitting down to a meal that requires a specific, oddly formal set of table manners, and following a tradition where an entire village walks its cows down a mountain wearing flower crowns. By the time this ends, you'll understand why people who've seen the whole world still say nothing quite prepares you for standing inside these mountains. Zermatt and the legendary Matterhorn start in Zermatt, a town so committed to preserving its silence that gas-powered cars have been banned here since the 1960s. Step off the train, and the first thing you notice is what's missing. No engines, no exhaust, just the electric hum of small taxis and the crunch of boots on packed snow. Wooden chalets line the main street, their walls turned dark brown by centuries of sun. Some of the oldest barns here dating back over 500 years, still standing on the same stone pillars farmers built to keep mice out of the grain stores. Walk to the edge of town at sunrise and the Matterhorn appears almost without warning, a single jagged pyramid of rock rising over 14,000 feet. So perfectly triangular that it looks almost designed rather than formed. Locals call the moment when morning light hits its peak the Matterhorn glow, alpenglow, when the rock face burns orange and pink for a few minutes before fading to grey stone, and photographers set alarms for 4 in the morning just to catch it. But that's only the beginning. Because this mountain carries one of the most sobering stories in climbing history. In 1865, 4 members of the first successful team to summit the Matterhorn died on the descent, when a rope snapped and sent them falling nearly 4,000 feet down the north face. The tragedy shocked all of Europe and briefly turned public opinion against mountaineering entirely. Yet it also cemented the Matterhorn's reputation as one of the most coveted and dangerous peaks on the continent. Visit the small mountaineering museum in town, and you'll find the actual frayed rope from that expedition on display. A quiet, unsettling reminder of exactly what this mountain has always demanded from the people who try to stand on top of it. Jungfraujoch, Europe's highest railway station. Just when you think you've absorbed the scale of these mountains, Switzerland pulls you somewhere that shouldn't logically exist. Take the cogwheel train up to Jungfraujoch, and partway through the journey, the entire train disappears directly into the mountain, tunneling through solid rock for nearly an hour, before emerging at the highest railway station in Europe, over 11,000 feet above sea level. Step outside, onto the observation deck, and you're standing on the Alps Glacier, the largest ice river in the Alps. Stretching over 13 miles, a slow-moving mass of ice thick enough in places to bury a 50-story building. The air up here feels different, thinner, sharper, carrying a cold that has nothing damp about it at all. Inside the mountain, engineers carved an entire ice palace decades ago. Tunnels and sculpture rooms cut directly into glacial ice, lit from below in blues and purples, a surreal, almost dreamlike space existing permanently below freezing regardless of the season outside. Lauterbrunnen Valley and Alpine traditions. There's one hidden spot almost nobody talks about, tucked just below all that glacial drama. Head down into Lauterbrunnen Valley, and the cliffs here rise so sheer and so close together that the entire valley feels carved by something impossibly precise. This is the valley with 72 waterfalls, water pouring directly off the cliff edges from glaciers melting high above. the most famous being Stobbock Falls, which drops nearly 300 feet in an almost unbroken curtain of mist that drifts sideways in the wind before it even reaches the ground. J.R.R. Tolkien visited this exact valley in 1911, and many believe its towering cliffs directly inspired Rivendell in his Middle-earth stories, a detail almost nobody notices while standing here, distracted completely by the roar of falling water bouncing off rock walls on every side. Locals in the tiny car-free village of Gimmelwald, perched on a ledge above the valley, still farm the same steep hillsides their grandparents did. Hay cut by hand on slopes too steep for any machine to safely operate. Just when you think the mountains have shown you everything, they change completely with the seasons. What happens here every September is almost impossible to believe unless you've witnessed it. Across mountain villages throughout Switzerland, farmers hold the Alpsbzug, the ceremonial descent of cattle from high summer pastures back down to the valley before winter arrives. The cows, having spent months grazing on alpine grass, are decorated with enormous flower headdresses and the largest, most elaborately decorated cowbells the farmer owns, some weighing over 10 pounds, before being paraded slowly down narrow mountain paths into the village below. The entire town turns out for it. Children in traditional dress, accordion music drifting through the street, and a genuine sense of relief and celebration. Because historically, a summer without illness or accident among the herd meant real economic survival for the family. Miss this by a week in either direction, and you'd never know it happened. Above the clouds at Grindelwald first, what happens above the clouds here, though, might be the most disorienting experience the Alps offer. Head to first, above the town of Grindelwald, and walk out onto the cliff walk, a metal platform bolted directly to a sheer rock face, with nothing beneath your feet but glass and several thousand feet of open air. Below you, paragliders drift silently past at eye level, riding thermal currents rising off the valley floor, close enough that you can sometimes hear them calling out to each other mid-flight. On clear mornings, an entire sea of clouds sometimes fills the valley below, while the peak itself sits in brilliant sunshine, meaning you're standing above the weather itself. Watching cloud tops roll and shift like a second landscape entirely, softer and stranger than the jagged rock surrounding it. The Glacier Express through the Swiss Alps, the next part, changes how you experience these mountains entirely. Because sometimes, the best way to see the Alps isn't standing still at all, it's watching them slide past a window for 8 straight hours. The Glacier Express connects Zermatt to St. Moritz, crossing 291 bridges and passing through 91 tunnels along a route engineers spent decades building through some of the most difficult terrain in Europe. It's been nicknamed the world's slowest express train, rarely moving faster than walking pace on the steepest sections. And that slowness is entirely the point. Panoramic windows curve up into the ceiling, and as the train climbs toward the Oberalp Pass, over 6,500 feet up, the landscape shifts from green valley farmland to bare granite and snow within a single hour. Waiters bring 3-course meals timed precisely to the scenery outside, a cheese course as you cross a particular viaduct. Dessert as the train winds through a valley locals still call one of the most remote inhabited places in the country. So maybe what makes the Alps unforgettable isn't really the height of the peaks at all. Maybe it's standing somewhere that forced people to build something beautiful out of something so difficult, and finding out that beauty is still there, waiting, exactly where it's always been. If this journey inspired you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which destination you're adding to your bucket list.